Okay, my wonderful friends, Roger once again, fairest of all fair users in the land, going to talk about something the Science Channel has up. Again, fair user means I'm just using it to try to explain what my evidence supports against what is being generally accepted. And they're talking about the Mars blueberries. Again, Science Channel, love them. Absolutely fabulous content. Now, we're going to listen to what they have to say about the Mars blueberries. I know what they are. I'm going to show you what they are. But listen to what they have to say.
January 2004. NASA's mission to Mars is on the line.
Spacecraft is ready for EDL.
The entire $800 million operation depends on the Opportunity rover probe's high-risk landing inside Eagle Crater.
Current speed is fast enough to traverse the United States in less than 12 minutes. 3, 2, 1. Parachute deployed. We're on Mars, everybody.
When Opportunity starts transmitting, Mission Control's elation soon turns to shock.
We're looking around, we're taking pictures, and we see the ground covered, literally covered with these little spherical grains. And this is really bizarre.
The Martian surface is covered in small spherical rocks.
What are these things? Where'd they come from?
What are they doing there? How do you get little balls in this rock?
Scientists give the puzzling round rocks an equally puzzling name. Mars blueberries.
Mars is the red planet, right? Everything's red. And these are less red. So to an astronomer, less red means blue. Blueberry, it's cute, you know, it's fun.
We get rid of mysteries by naming them something that we can understand. I think they're too quick to do that.
The presence of spherical rocks, a totally different color from the surrounding terrain, raises the question of how they got there.
Could this have an artificial source? Obviously, something powerful had happened that blew bits of the Martian crust off. Something's funny going on there.
What an artificial source could be remains pure speculation, until the results of an experiment to test the effects of meteorite impacts provides an exciting possibility. When scientists fire high-voltage plasma charges at Martian dust, the energy beams transform the fragments into perfect spheres.
I suppose it's possible that plasma weaponry fired into the ground on Mars could cause features like this. One would have to imagine this massive plasma war among Martian civilizations.
Another theory for the blueberries' origin discounts plasma weaponry, but supports the idea of life on the red planet.
Mars blueberries might seem a little strange. We also have them here on Earth, created in the presence of water.
Those little shapes, they're called concretions to the geologist, and those form in rock as water circulates through it.
Water on Mars is very exciting because it means that at one point Mars was probably habitable.
We've got active groundwater. That's what you need on Earth for life. Perhaps this was an environment where life could have thrived.
If the Martian blueberries indicate the presence of water, the implications are astonishing. These tiny spheres could provide the best evidence yet that Mars was the perfect breeding ground for alien life. Coming up, astronaut Story Musgrave steps into space to repair the Hubble telescope.
And guess what? He's going to smell steak. Just so you understand, space smells like burning metal or steak. So just remember that. Okay, let's step back through this and look at these blueberries. So here they go. They just landed. Everybody's totally happy as can be.
Opportunity starts transmitting. Mission Control's elation soon turns to shock.
We're looking around,
All right, first of all, I want you to see what you're looking at here. These patches blocking us. And then these are all these little blueberries over the top of them. Now, let's go a little
taking
further.
pictures, and we see the ground covered, literally covered with these little spherical grains. And this is really bizarre.
All right, now, these are, again, they, as you recall, they say they are a darker color, different than the rest. So this is like a muddy, red color, and these are, they literally are basically blue because they are made out of an entirely different substance with is a tendon ball anchor. I'll show you that on Earth. All right, everything in your body is anchored with tendons, and the tendons anchor into these little tiny stone balls, and they are stone balls. And what we're seeing on Mars was interstitium. It's the same sort of little balls, but in a different area of the body. It's called interstitium. All right, this is these are the balls. The same balls we just saw up on Mars. They're the same color. They're on top of a red background. And that background, if you could look at it carefully, I don't know if I can get any closer. I can't get any closer with it. But it has that same blockiness you can see that was up on Mars. They had these pad-looking things which had separated because it's less, it was more eroded, let's put it that way, than this. Now, I don't know it eroded from water. I don't know how it eroded, but somehow this is less eroded. But you see the mud down here? It was the same stuff those balls were sitting in, is mud just like this. Now, let's see what it looks like in a different shot. All right, this is in a biological creature. This is called interstitium. And this is where you have all this flexible fluid-filled bags with these anchor balls. These are the little black balls that we saw up on Mars and on Earth, and they come bigger, much, much bigger. Now, look at this. This is a layer, it's called mucosa inside your body. On the outside, it's just skin. Underneath your skin, you have this sort of stuff. It's all the gushy stuff you can move and flex and pull this way and that way. But the balls anchor your skin and your tissue underneath to come back to where it originally was after you stretch and pull and do whatever you're doing. Once this erodes, the balls will not fall apart. Everything else here is kind of gushy, and it will just sort of erode. The straps are a little stronger, but not real strong. So remember this. You got fluid-filled bags, they just go away. You've got the collagen straps, and they are not quite so strong as these. And then you have the anchors that are just, they don't go away, the balls. We just saw them. Now, is there any place I can show you on Earth that would show you that there are gigantic creatures? Yes, there is. And there it is right there. All right. That's the mucosa or skin, whatever. This is the red fleshy area underneath, and the balls are falling out of here, and they're the balls in the mud just like they're up on Mars. These are pretty big compared to the blueberries that are up on Mars, but Mars also has some extremely large ones like this, and I will show you that now too. Because I did a very, very detailed study on Mars when they originally landed up there. The Mars crab, the blueberries, the whole 9 yards, and it's all biological, exactly as is on Earth. When I show you the crab, you're going to freak. All right, I showed you there's tendon balls running all through your body, everywhere where there's an anchor, and any work that's done in you is an anchor pulled against a muscle. These are all over the Earth, and the creatures that were on this Earth are so large your mind cannot possibly understand it. You can only revert back to what was said in the earliest text. Now, I'm not going to get real religious on this, but I figured out how many cultures did not talk about giants. 0. 0. Everybody talked about giants, 100%. So as I kept digging, yes, no question. I have them here, and mine are DNA tested. Mine aren't gigantic, but they're literally almost 200 feet tall, some of them. Now, this one here, it's got to be almost miles tall, and that's what Enoch said. Enoch said that God, whoever that was, and I think now, in my mind, I think it might have been Zeus, decided that he had to get rid of all these giants because they were just absolutely enormous. And Enoch said they were 3,000 ells tall. That is 2.5 miles or bigger. So, and it could very well easily been, with these being the tendon balls. Look at this. Now, and they're everywhere. There's not just one or two here or there. They are literally everywhere. I'm just going to run through a bunch of them. And they are in layers like this, and there's a stalk coming out of them. And I showed you before what they look like anatomically. There's some more right there. I'm just going to run down and quickly shoot them up. There's some coming out of the wall there. And when they come out of a wall like that, that was some kind of tissue. That was flesh. They're locked in there to hold some, that's not just mud. They're everywhere, everywhere. I mean thousands of them. See that? That's the more interstitium. That's like up on Mars. Whoops. And sometimes they take on a color if they're in where there's a lot of transition metals and copper or something like that. Sometimes they have this structure internally, and this is flint and chert, and that's very, very tough. The tendon balls are tough as hell, and they last literally forever. And there's different styles. It depends on where it was in your body. And some of them have 2 stalks, and some of them only have 1. All right, this is the kind, you see these little chunks and blocks in here? There's different styles, and this is the style they make plates out of over in, I think, China or Japan. Chaco Canyon, I think, is a tendon ball. I mean, they get this big. I'm not kidding you, they get this big. And there are other ones that are even much, much bigger. There's no way you can possibly get your mind around this until you sit down for a while and start thinking. Now that's not a tendon ball. I thought it was at first, but now I'm almost certain it's an eye. And all of these are the different lens depths of the eye. Look at that. There's a stone ball for you. It broke open. Some of them are filled with sand. All right, this is the kind that has the blocks inside of them. It's eroded on the outside, but you can see what's going to happen inside there. So a buddy of mine, Lee, sent me this. And that's blood, and this is a tendon. And these are the kind of blocks that were inside. Now, I don't think people carved those for seats. I think that's the kind of stuff that was inside them. Here's another one Lee sent me. This is an eroded one. Everything's come out of it. This would be like down to that ground level, and I'm sitting in these little buckets. Same thing. That one there, these are ligaments. When you see this, there's 2 bones next to each other, and that's a ligament holding something else here and another one here. Whether they were, I don't know how they did this, what happened there. Lily Lavender sent me this one. This is a tendon ball stuck inside of the wall of that was actually a body of a creature, and that's one of these tendon balls. And this has the stripes around it. And guess what? Go look at Iapetus, the moon. I think it's Jupiter's moon. Well, here. I said this looks like Iapetus. It has a ridge. And they have ridges. Some of them have ridges, some of them don't. Some of them are coated like this with that blueberry stuff. And then inside there's a whole nother tissue. All right, these are some other ones. I mean, they're everywhere. All right, that had a stalk coming out of it this way. No, they were everywhere. There's balls everywhere up there. Now that's one. You see that there's a ridge right there. That's the Iapetus ridge. This turned to opal inside because it was in a condition where there was a lot of transition metals, and they invaded. The outside would not accept the transition metals. Right? This is a very unique situation. The outside is organic, but it's not organic in the way organic is. This is tough stuff. But organic stuff is what turns to opal. What do we got here? See these are tendon balls. I'm not kidding you. These creatures were out. I have a friend out on the West Coast, Tyson Carlson. He's doing research on one that's, extremely enormous. That's another tendon ball that has those little chunks inside of it. All right, here's one of those plates they made out of the thing those kids were playing in. See? This is it's built right. They didn't do this. They didn't make this. This is what the structure of the tendon ball is, and they cut it off and dressed it up. And these here, I still can't figure these out. These look like some kind of seeds. Look at that. They're not tendon balls that I know of. Nothing I ever saw before. Those are up in Canada somewhere. All right, there's your marbles. They call them Moki marbles, but up on Mars they call them Mars blueberries. And there they are. This is what they're made out of. They say they're concretions, and they just all grew around a little seed, basically, and they just adhered and made a concretion. No, this is what they are inside the bodies of creatures. And they're tough. There's another one. I mean, these don't just pop out of nowhere. And these were just totally ignored. I mean, they're everywhere. They're everywhere around the world. There's the stalk, the neck of the stalk, and that was a tendon ball. And she looks pretty happy. All right, there it is right there. There's the stalk. Stone cutters. Here's where they were building Stonehenge. Somebody was doing this. I mean, just think about it. They didn't have maybe they did have equipment. I know they did. And here's Stonehenge, the heel. The heel stone. It's a foot. And up there is the terminal tips of the toes, and that's why they have those dots, because one side is a vein and one side is an artery. Vein and artery on each toe. See it? Vein and artery on each toe. That's the heel stone. It was a monument to a giant. All right. Anyway, that's all the stone. Well, I mean, I got a ton more. I got so much more on this. It's embarrassing. I had to do this for so many years, and have it completely dismissed, totally dismissed for at least 10 years now. And with the last 6 years, everything's been completely validated with DNA and CAT scans and chemistry and anatomists and everything else. And the universities and colleges, they cannot get their mind around this because it points to gods or all this myth stuff being true. And as far as I'm concerned, it was true. I'm going with that at this moment. Nobody can convince me it wasn't. And if you want to come up and assault me and insult me for saying these things, you're gone. Because I'm done being insulted by a bunch of fools that will not ask questions. They just dismiss. That case is closed for me. All right, so do it at your own peril. Because I'm just blocking them. Up, done. Case is closed for you. I've never had one of you people that be nasty like that turn around. So out you go. Think about it before you do it. All right, remember, these are the Mars blueberries, and they are on the basement layer of skin, exactly like I showed you with the Moki marbles. See, these are the Moki marbles. That is the exact same stuff that you just saw under the Mars blueberries. And this is from Interstitium. It's a basement layer of skin below, so you have a layer up here that has eroded and turned into this mud. Then you had that fleshy layer, which this is what eroded. I showed you the big, huge one before. And then you have the balls. They end up laying on a basement layer, which is just above your heavy-duty, fleshy stuff below. That's where all your muscles are and stuff. All right, you see this? This is Mars Morse code, they call it. And they have no clue what it's all about. These are those tendon balls. These are the straps. This is the skin pulled open where the strap is stretched. Underneath is the lower layer of skin, basement layer. and above this would have been some fleshy area, and everything is eroded away except the balls and the straps. And just exactly what I showed you in the interstitium. But it's eroded. These are gathered together, interstitium. This is stretched open, gathered, stretched. That's why these straps are this way. Okay, before I go into the microscope shots, I just want to say something. People have been asking me about this microscope. It's very simple. It's a celestron. A celestron is considered to be a little bit better grade, but you can buy them. I bought one of these just to try it. I never used it, but it's supposed to have 1,000 magnification. Now I don't know how the quality is, but it says 1,000 magnification, and it works for all of the different. I have Linux, so it would work for mine, and 1,000, and USB. You just plug it in. So I don't know. Yeah, and I know this wasn't expensive. I don't think it was $20 or so. So it wasn't expensive. And of course, it's nice to have one of these because you can see. You don't need a regular fancy microscope. I got one of those too. I never use it. It was a total waste of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sick.
All right. Can I show you this in something here on Earth? Yes, I can. This is genuine leather. Can you see that? I think so. All right, this is genuine leather, which means that is basically this, with all of the gush pushed out of it and tanned. They call it tanning. So I should be able to see these straps and balls if it has the same thing, and I can. And the best place to see them is around the belt loops. All right, so let's get ready. I got to turn the lights off so we can see this in the camera. But I'm going to be using this microscope, and we're going to be seeing it up in the other screen. Hold on. All right, this is the interstitium. You see, those are the black balls, and running in between them is all these fibers. And you say, well, I don't see the fibers. I said, well, hold on a second. You'll see them uno momento. I'm going to go up to around a belt loop. There they are right there, you see? These are the interstitium fibers. You see them? And those are the exact same thing that we're seeing down here. Exact same thing, identical. And some of them are stretched and some of them aren't stretched. No difference whatsoever. And this is split leather, genuine rawhide. And that's all those little strappy things. Now, there's somebody who sent me something the other day. He said, oh, there's soft rock. Well, this is soft rock too. This is twisty and soft. It's a belt. Now, once this hardens up and becomes almost rock-like, it's not going to fracture. These things are tough, and they're flexible. They're made to be flexible. So if you had one that was, you could make this solid like a rock, and you couldn't bend it at all. Yes, correct. However, some of them will be in a transition phase between somewhat moistish and somewhat petrified, and that's what you would have as a soft rock. All right. This is a vein. This is an artery. The artery pumps the red blood through tiny little blood vessels that run out of all of these arterial connections. And the vein doesn't have any of those. It basically sucks all of the blood back up to the heart and lungs to be regenerated, cleaned by the liver and so forth. Now, that's why they show blue. Blue means, and the blood literally is basically blue. And it's because it's deoxygenated. When it's red, it has an extra oxygen. When it's all used up, the oxygen has to go back and get charged back up. And then it looks bluish. Now, let's see what else we can show about veins and arteries. Oh, by the way, they have a clamp in here. You see this? Valve clamp. What happens in veins is blood can go up to the heart to get sucked up into the heart, but it cannot go backwards because it's already used up. You can't do that. This it can go any way it wants. That's why the arteries, they purge, they bleed out. The veins don't normally do that. There'll be a section that'll have a valve and another section, and that's as far as it can go. So anyway, that's just a little bit of arterial info. All right, now this will show you how complex the arterial network is, because this is the part that has to get oxygen and nutrients and everything else to every part of your body. I mean, every single cell. Now, the veins suck it back up. They have some kind of, there's a lot more to it than this. They're showing a couple little tubes. There's a lot more to the veins, but they're giving you the primary. Most of this is about arteries. Now, the veins are nowhere near as complex as the arteries. Now, let's look and see if there's anything on Mars that we can compare this to. Okay, I showed you the vein and the artery here, and the arteries bleed out. So all that blood would run out of there if the creature died. And let's look at this. This is what happened right here. There's a vein clamped off. There's the artery running all down here, this red blood. Okay, see it? There's that little valve. And here's the vein, the artery, which makes a hole because it can just purge itself, and that's why all this ran out. Now that is literally blood, and this is literally muscle. All right, so we have a blood supply. Inside this muscle, as you saw all that little red stuff going everywhere, there's going to be all kinds of little blood vessels going to service this tissue. So again, let's see what we can find on Mars that can look something like that. Okay, so what are we looking at here? This is the Mars crab. There it is right there. And everybody said, ooh, it looks like a crab. Look, it's got crab legs on it. Well, I'm going to tell you what it really is. It is an artery, and that is red blood, and these are the little blood vessels that run off and go into the sarcomeres, which are these right here. You see these little layers and blocks? These stripes going this way and that way, and a block, 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 and a block. Well, you think that just happened by accident? No, obviously not. Well, what are they? Well, they are sarcomeres, because that is feeding this muscle tissue from some gigantic creature, or Mars itself was alive, like one or the other. We saw those blocks going boom, boom, and all those little tiny stripes. These are muscle sarcomeres. When they pinch together, the whole thing comes together. These slide in amongst themselves. Well, we just saw they're all eroded away in all these little bundles. Now we'll go back and look at it again so we don't get confused. But we also have these on Earth. Petra has exactly the same thing. It was carved out of the flesh of some gigantic creature. So don't forget, we're getting blood supplied to our sarcomeres. And these would pinch together. These would pinch together to pull this whole thing together. When it was alive, whatever it was a creature. And that is the blood from the artery. And all of this eroded down here, that's all blood vessel, blood cells and plasma and so forth. And that is the vein. It pushes down, pushes the blood in, and eventually somewhere way down at the bottom, at the tips of your fingers and your terminals of your toes, it pulls everything back up. That's how your body works. And that was the body of a creature. That's sarcomeres, you know. And let me show you what they are here on Earth at Petra. All right, this is striated muscle. This is expanded to show a little closer. This is real close, showing what I just showed you, the sarcomeres. That's what they are, sarcomeres. And that's where they break, and then you have all these little lines, because these come right together. To pinch, that's how a muscle works. You saw the muscle fiber bundles. They are right there. These are the sarcomeres. That would go in, and these would pinch. These were carved when they were wet flesh. There was wet flesh here. They carved these. They put all these little pockets in here so that let the moisture out, and inside is all flesh too. But that is the sarcomeres, exactly what I just showed you. Only again, this was right after the flood. Apparently, they carved this out of these semi-solidified bodies, but they were like some kind of hard putty. Well, not hard putty, or actually soft putty. That's what they made the walls down in Peru and all that stuff with. I've got 100% evidence to support every single word I'm saying, and it needs to just be examined for what it really is, because this changes everything. Mars has biology everywhere. I mean, everything I have points to biology is the source of what I can't find anything that isn't biology at this point. Maybe you can, but I'd like to see it, because I can't. I know it's a crazy statement to make, but I cannot. Even the things in Comet 67P, no question. I mean, they know it too now. They know they say, oh, it's organic. Well, organic means biological. Plus, I showed it in such great detail. It literally cannot be denied at this point. Huge, yes. Dragons, yes. Giants, yes. Ancient texts, it appears to be, they were not lying. They were not missed. They were not joking around. They were not kidding. What does that mean for our life now, and what does it mean for your possible eternity? I don't know. That's something you're going to have to decide, because there was a lot written about that, and then some of it is as scary as it can be. So this is something that we all have to have on the table so we can talk about it. Right now, it's just you take what I said and just go home and watch TV or do whatever you do, play games. And that's really what's going on now. There's no thinking anymore. The pushback is absolutely monumental against any shift against what you're taught. And taught means, all of it right now taught means is, if you can say what I tell you to say, I will let you be successful in life. If you don't say what I tell you to say and you put up any fuss, I can ruin your life. So don't do it. And who's going to do it? Who's going to fight? Even the teachers, they can't speak up. And I know a lot of them are upset about not being able to. I've heard some of it. And but what can you do? If you do, you end up like Velikovsky. You would end up like me. Thank God I didn't have to try to eke out a living while I was making all these statements, because believe me, I'd be living in a tent somewhere in the woods. You cannot speak up and get away with it about the things I'm talking about, religion and gods, and it all sounds insane. I sound like I'm a crazy, insane person, but trust me, I've been doing this easily 10 years of very, very serious investigation. And if anybody wants to stand up, I am 100% willing to debate. All right, that's what I want, is a debate. I've been told I'm a very good debater. I could even be a master debater. All right, here's another one for you. Answer this question. How did this thing get here? It didn't drive here because there's no tracks leading up to it. These big gouges look like tire tracks to me, going into flesh, which was wet flesh. These little grippy things are to drive. You see how wide this platform is? This was a big, wide platform. They were mining these slabs, and they built those walls while they were wet, because this was wet because it was sitting here. How did it get here? It had to come out of the sky. And what kind of a machine did they have back then? This was at least 3,500 years ago. And they were driving on wet, and this is flesh. This was tendon. And that's why these flaky little things in here, that's mineralization in the tendon at near an abrupt transition. I have some here that I could show you. Well, here's right here, hold on. Mine is selenite. All right, you see, this is the same sort of stuff, only it's opposite, because this came in, it was an area where all of the reddish stuff was flushed out by nucleophilic substitution, and which left actually clear. You can see right through it, basically. It's called selenite. And it has to have a certain chemistry in there, and I believe there's a lot of fluorine, which I don't know where that comes from in the body of the creature, but it has to be from like the gallbladder or something. Some kind of chemistry ate into this removed all of the ferrous oxides and all the minerals and metals and left strictly like silicates and that type of thing attached, I believe fluorine, hydrofluorine. I can't remember what this is, but anyway, that's what happens in nucleophilic substitution. Whatever is in the waters, in the wetness around there, will invade and substitute whatever's there. So nucleophilic substitution. All right, and this is the first time it's ever been associated to what I'm talking about. You know, they use it in chemistry to make things. But I'm going to tell you what, your body does nucleophilic substitution 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or you die. Because everything in your body has to be changed, substituted. You got to come in and take out the trash and bring in some new stuff. It's called substitution. It's not a big, it's no big mystery here. The mystery is why they won't look into these things. I think I'll just leave it at this for today. But tell me, how did this thing get here? It looks like they dropped some kind of a anchor in there to secure it from rolling down the hill. But other than that, I don't see how it could have gotten here. There's no tire tracks coming up to it. It just laid in here. And at that point, it chopped these things out of here, and somehow they brought them in the back and they made the walls. Because right over the other side of it are all those walls that are made with the, well, tendons. See, these are the slabs they were cutting, and they just cut them any way they needed, and they just put them together. They were wet, and they sort of poofed, and they sort of fluffed up a little bit. But this was a piece that had a piece of, looks like bone to me, and that's this one here, kind of nasty. The one up here is just rotted away, because there's some of it was biology, and the ones up here, these are nice clear tendons. The ones with the bumps on them are the ones that are the best ones. They have the little bumps on them. They can't figure out what they are. Well, I know what they are. They're attachments to tendon balls. And those bumps, they just break them off. See, these are the tendon wall bumps. And the bumps are just straps that came out and they're locked into a ball. And they just snap them off. See, this is how the tendon mats. These are the ones that are on like your stomach and so forth. These are the best. Because they're nice and they're flat when they lay them flat. But there was a bump on each one of them because it attached to this little strap that held onto the balls. I showed you the balls are everywhere, and that ball would have been locked into the muscle, or in your stomach it's locked into another tendinous area, and this one ripped out of that. And every now and then, this happened to me one time. I was doing some exercise, I forget what I was doing, all of a sudden I went bang, I could feel a bump, and I said oof, and I'm sure that's what happened to me too. Now, and it's painful. But all they did was break them off here and then mold them up and push them into the walls, and that was it. Okay, you've seen the crab, you've seen the Petra sarcomeres, you've seen the sarcomeres on Mars, you've seen the blueberries, you've seen a lot of stuff. Now, if anybody wants to debate, I can debate. I'd certainly like to discuss it. You know, I don't know if a debate is the best word, but it would be a good thing to talk about it and say, well, what do you think this is? Because now we can do all kind of tests and chemistry and so forth. It's a little scary because they can do a lot of biology that, you know, is a little scary for some wacky, crazy person now. And there's wacky, crazy people everywhere. So I'm a little, you know, it's been talked about enough, so the wacky, crazy people probably know about it. And I want everybody to know about it so we can stop some people from being wacky and crazy. And this shouldn't be an area to be, you know, try to clone or any of that stuff. But that's the problem. They're trying to clone this or that. I think I saw something the other day that they put a certain gene into a monkey to see if they can increase its intelligence or something. I don't know what they did. It's a scary, scary, scary world. And these things have been talked about, and they were talked about by the people that were writing the things about these exact events. So that's where I'm looking now, is what was written about this. Because the things that were written right now, I'm taking them as more factual than non-factual, and 100% factual compared to what we've been fed. All of this stuff, there was gods, there was giants, there was dragons, there was all of these things in the myths appear to have extreme amounts of substance behind them. So do as you will. Stay around my channel. Talk to people, though. We need to get more of an audience. The audience just doesn't grow. I mean, I'm getting people signing up as subbing, but there's only a few thousand hits, and then it just stops. And I know I've been put into the crazy land because of all the things I talk about, and they target you with their algorithms and stuff to the crazy people. Not that all your people are crazy. Well, not all of you. But all I can say is people now they consider crazy because they have an open mind. If you even start to talk about something that goes against what everybody else is saying, right away they don't want to hear you. They shut you right up and say, "Oh, the guy's crazy. Forget about him. Leave him alone." And that's what happened to me. And it happened to Velikovsky. They couldn't leave alone because he was in the system. So they had to destroy him, and they did. They destroyed him. They made him take his book off the bookshelves. #1 on the top seller list 11 weeks in a row, and they made him take him off the bookshelves because they didn't like what he was saying. And this is exactly what's happened to me and to a lot of other people that are trying to make these things understood that are quite factual, or at least merit some investigation. And when you see the pushback and the denial and the dismissal and the demeaning and the demoralizing of any scientific evidence, then you really know who's the problem, and it's the academics. They have taken over society, and they now are literally in control of everybody's lives. Because if you don't do exactly what they tell you to do and pay them to tell you, then they ruin your life. And they say, okay, pay me a lot of money. And say, okay, here's the money. And they say, okay, now here's what you have to say. And say, well, I don't want to say that. So, well, you have to say that, or I'm going to keep your money and then I'll ruin your life. So what are you going to do? And the professor can't say, let me think about what you're saying. Let's talk about this in class. No, because he will be gone too. So we're in a system of denial, dismissal, destruction of intelligence. It's what's called menticide. All right, stick with me and get unmenticided. Okay, so I'm talking about the ionosphere scrubbing against all the particles in space. Well, can I show the particles in space? Yes, I can. You don't see them now, but the Rosetta mission orbiter is circling, and it will come in and out of the direct sunlight. And as it does, it will illuminate all the particles that are in space, exactly like John Glenn's fireflies, which I either showed you or I will show you. Now watch what happens here. Boom, you see that? Boom, you see all the particles lit up? That's when they come into the sunlight, and they're behind it, so they get illuminated. And it's not just these particles that are illuminating, they're illuminating everywhere because space is 100% filled with particles. So as they come around and the darkness of space is behind the particles, they're seeing the particles lit up. But you can only see them from a certain angle. You cannot be facing into the sun, basically, is what it is. You have to just be coming up in sunrise and having the sun hit the particles, but you're outside of the range of the sun. And that's exactly what John Glenn said. He says, I'm just coming up onto the sunrise. We're going to go look at that, or we already have looked at it, but this is what's going on. Boom, there's the particles. Boom, there's the particles. There's one strange event here that was very, very interesting. It was like a really blast. Let's see if I can catch it. You see how they're pulsing? I'm trying to stop it and catch this one event, which was really stunning. Oh, there it was. Ooh, it only lasts like a zillionth of a second. Because I have this turned down very, very slow. 25%. No, we're past it already. Anyway, there was a beam shot up. I have no clue what it was. But you saw all those particles being illuminated from behind, swish, swish. And that's as it's coming into the sunlight. And you see them, they call them cosmic rays. Well, call them whatever you want. Some of them are extremely high energy. Yes, absolutely. Some of them are very high energy. Some of them are just little particles that are just getting illuminated by the sun. Other ones are streaming through. But my point is the universe is 100% saturated with these particles because they're sunlight and they're dust particles, they're all kinds of things. So everything that's going through that concusses with them because everything that is a particle has a mass. These things don't just glow for no reason. They have a mass and they're being pushed against and they're pushing back. Whenever there's push to shove, there is glow. And the harder you push, the glowerier it gets. And these are much more glowy than these little ones. All right, so, and this is extremely glowy because we're getting pushed, the sunlight is hitting this extremely volatile surface. And it's gassing off and it's doing all kinds of stuff. It would actually be burning if you had a lot of oxygen there, probably. But it's extreme. Well, they say space smells like steak, and it does because these are body parts.